Chicago Bears fans. Oh boy. Yeah, welcome in on a Monday. It is the first stream, and I am excited to talk to all of you, although I wish it was under better circumstances. With me with the video quality. I do have a webcam on the way, but it did not arrive before I decided to have this stream. I decided that having this stream tonight was important because if I have people to chat with today, I would like to talk about the things that are going on with the Chicago Bears. And yeah, I mean, I suppose I'll kind of get into some of my thoughts. Um, I believe that Matt Eberflus has completely lost the locker room. I don't think that players are very much playing for him anymore at this point. Let's start with what happened just this Sunday. There is a play towards the end of the game where you're not quite at the end of the game and you're not quite out of it yet, but DJ Moore takes a cut route to the sideline and he basically just gets up on the play and walks out of bounds. And I mean, let's be honest. I mean, players don't really do that unless they're not playing for the coach. I mean, it's to be fair and to be expected that these captains are getting a little frustrated, right? Because you asked your captains to make this council, and you asked these guys to voice their opinions and concerns and do all these things. And then after the Commanders lost, you basically turn around and you silence them, right? And once you turn around and silence them, well, that creates a little bit of a rift. And, unfortunately, the product on the field is what's going to pay the price. I don't think that it's a player issue. I 100% believe that it's a coaching issue. I mean, you look at, weeks 3 through 6, Caleb Williams just got better week over week. And then Shane Waldron goes back to what he was doing weeks 1 and 2, and now it erases all of that. And people really want to have the conversation about if Caleb Williams is a bust, and to be honest, I just don't think that that's the case. I think it's more than fair to say that you don't have a good offensive line in front of him. He's getting pressured on average like 40% and higher pretty much per game, and he doesn't get a lot of time. And then on top of that, Shane Waldron, his scheming is just all over the place. I mean, weeks 1 and 2, he basically didn't have a game plan. Weeks 3 through 6, we saw a lot of improvement. I agreed with a lot of the scheming and the play calling. I thought that he did a really good job. And to be honest, other than like 3 plays in the Commanders game, I didn't really think he called a bad game either. And now, coming into Arizona, I can't really say that he called a horrible game, but there's still some questionable calls in that game, and it's like, are you really playing to your quarterback's strengths? Like that's how you should work your game plan. You shouldn't try to fit the quarterback to the schemes. You should fit the schemes to the quarterback. Like that's how it's always been. And I mean, it's I just can't get around the fact that your scheming is making the players look worse than they actually are. Because I don't think that the players are that bad. There is a lot of talent on this roster. There is 100% a lot of talent on this roster. I think that I think it's hard to deny that there's talent on this roster. You have Rome Odunze, you have Cole Kmet, which, by the way, that's another thing that irritated me about Sunday's game. He got 0 targets, and he got 1 target when you were playing against the Commanders. Like that is 100% unacceptable. You cannot have that. You just paid the guy, and having Gerald Everett favored over Cole Kmet makes absolutely 0 sense. Absolutely 0 sense. And, it comes to a point where you have to look in at the coaches. And unfortunately, the McCaskies, they're not the kind that will, get rid of coaching mid-year. But at the same time, I mean, let's be honest, there's going to be a point in time where you're going to have to do that. Like, you can't just sit here and be like, well, we're for tradition and we have to wait until the off season. No, listen, there are what, 4 teams that came out today and fired offensive coordinators and head coaches and defensive coordinators and running back coaches and quarterback coaches and offensive lineman coaches. Like, you can be that person around the league that does it. And why you continuously choose not to be the person that does is, honestly, it's, why can't you be like the rest of the NFL, at least to standards? Because we are seeing right now, sorry, I apologize, I'm just propping my phone up so I can see chat if anybody gets up in here. But anyways, I don't understand why you can't be up to league standard and be like the rest of the teams. Like, make that make sense for me, please. I mean, make that make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you bring in these coaches that say that they're going to take the North and never give it back, and here we are. I mean, granted, 4-4, you're still the worst team in the division. Like, you can't even say the fourth best team in the division, right? Like, you are undoubtedly the worst team in the NFC based on how you lost against Washington and how you went and lost against Arizona, because Arizona had the 27th or 28th ranked defense coming into today's game, and now you just made them look 100 times better than they actually are. And you make Caleb Williams for the second week in a row look absolutely terrible, and everyone's going to start calling him a bust, just like they did with Justin Fields, just like they did with Mitch Trubisky. They're going to call him a bust. And I still don't think that calling him a bust is fair. Fair at all. It can't be fair. I mean, the Bears have had this ungodly trend lately where they get a quarterback and then they fire the head coach and the offensive coordinator. They did it with Trubisky. They did it with Justin Fields. And it looks like they're getting ready that they're going to be at the point where they have to do it for Caleb Williams as well. And that does not set up any quarterback for success whatsoever. I cannot think of one quarterback in Bears history where that actually worked. I mean, I feel bad for the guy. I mean, he walks in here, he tells Tory Taylor that he's not going to punt a lot, and, well, I mean, Tory Taylor is arguably the best guy on our team right now, because, I mean, he flips the field all the time for us, and it's absolutely crazy. It's insane. I mean, you can't sit there and tell me that it is a Caleb Williams issue. I don't think it's a Caleb Williams issue. Like I said, your offensive line cannot protect him enough. And when he does protect him enough, there's times where Keenan Allen's dropping passes. There's times where DJ Moore's dropping passes. Rome Odunze's dropping passes. It's not the best situation, but at the same time, you got to allow the guy to build confidence. And I will agree when people are saying, well, you had that chance against the Colts. Okay, yeah, sure, 100%. I'll give you that. You had that chance against Washington, which you should have won that game, and that was a defensive problem. How Matt Eberflus went away about suspending Tyreek Stevenson for a quarter of the game. I would like to get into that later too, because that seemed to turn some eyes in the Bears locker room. And again, you can't say that it is a quarterback problem for the number one overall pick for the second time in a row. Well, I mean, Justin Fields wasn't the number one overall pick. But that is the second first round quarterback you have drafted, and you let the guy down. And I can't sit here and say that everything's all fine and dandy when, you know, I could understand if you're losing these games when you can see the offensive production either at least stay level or tick up as the year goes by. I'd be okay with that. As long as you could see consistent, solid development, I would 100% be okay with it. But the problem is that you don't see that continuous development because, again, and I also understand that we have, a lot of injuries to deal with, but at the same time, it is not, it is just not feasible to be rolling out the same guys, and that's another problem that I have with Eberflus is he keeps saying we're going to roll out the same personnel, same personnel. Well, at the same time, you're also gloating about how much depth you have. So why aren't you pulling some of those depth pieces up to try them out at the left side tackle or the left side guard? Because we know that the left side of the offense is the big problem. That's where Caleb Williams is mostly getting killed from. Like, that is no secret. The left side of the offensive line is your big hole, and everybody can see it. It's a mile wide. It's as wide as the Grand Canyon. I mean, you could triple up on one guy from the left side, and he will just walk through. Like, the left side of the line is 100% the problem. And you keep saying that you have great offensive depth, and you're building that offensive depth. Again, why can't you pull one of those depth pieces up? Why can't you elevate somebody from the practice roster to see if it'll help you a little bit? Why can't you pull somebody else to see if you can get some help on that left side? Why did you not go out and try to trade for somebody before these tougher games came? We knew that it was coming. We knew that the offensive line was a problem. We said it last year, and we're saying it again. And people want to say, well, the difference is that Fields, he had legs and he was able to move. Well, yeah, okay, cool. But at the same time, a quarterback with legs doesn't really win you games. Quarterback wins the games through the air. Like that's just how the NFL is, right? So how can you tell me that Caleb Williams is the problem when us as Bears fans have been complaining about the same issue for at least in my lifetime for the last, 15 years? Jay Cutler never had any help. Trubisky never had any help. Fields never had any help. Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, they never had any help. And what makes it worse is some of these guys made your offensive line look better because they had experience in the NFL and they knew how to work with that. Fields and Caleb, I mean, they're rookies and they don't know how to expand their game when the pocket collapses that fast. And that's not on them. That's really not on them. Because, I mean, and God bless Caleb Williams. He puts a lot of faith in that offensive line. Because he stands in that pocket and he will throw darts sometimes. And I'll give it to him. He does a very good job with what he has in front of him. At least in my mind, with the offensive line that Caleb Williams has in front of him, he made them look really good weeks 3 through 6. Just imagine if he even had a half of a competent offensive line in front of him. He would be insane. His stats would be on Jaden Daniels levels right now. And I'm 100% confident in saying that. You have any sort of competency in that offensive line, he's putting up the same numbers as Daniels, and you're probably a 7-1 Chicago Bears team instead of sitting 4-4. Because I still don't know if you win that game against the Commanders just because of the way that you lost. And if it's not the Commanders game, I still don't think that you would have won the game against Houston. But any competent offensive line in front of the man, he's putting up better stats. Because like I said, the games where the offensive line looked competent, and you were using Odunze and Cole Kmet, and using DeAndre Swift the way that he is supposed to be used, the Bears were putting up points. And they put up 35, 36, and I think 35 3 weeks in a row. Like, you can't tell me that it's a Caleb Williams issue because he has already proven that when he's able to use all of his weapons and he's able to use the offensive line, he could do superstar things as a rookie. he could do Jaden Daniels things as a rookie. I think it goes back to he has the exact same problem that Justin Fields has, and that is not a competent offensive line in front of him. Unfortunately, that makes Caleb Williams look like a bust because I've already seen some ESPN outlets talk about it. I've already seen some insiders talk about it on Twitter. Like they want to say that he's a bust already, and I just think it is a development issue because of the coaching. Any sort of competent coaching, we are having a 180 talk right here. I mean, I really think that. I really do. Now, with talking about the offensive line of woes, I also want to talk about what happened with Tyreek Stevenson and how that Commanders game ended. I understand that Tyreek Stevenson pulled a lot of dummy stuff in that game, and I understand that he was out of position. We should have taken a timeout. I mean, everybody and their brother talked about it. That's what brought up the whole issue with the captains speaking out and basically them saying, hey, we got to keep this in house. But when your captains, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Kevin Byard, and Jalen Johnson all come out and say, we are in a position with our secondary that we cannot bench him. All we could do is elevate him and lift him as a player and help him grow. And then you say to the media that you're not going to comment whether or not you're going to bench him or play him, just to tell him that in private. And then it gets misreported in the media that he walked out of practice when that's not really what even happened. I mean, Eberflus, my guy. I mean, the way you talk to the media drives me insane. I mean, if I knew you were going to talk to the media like this, I would have just kept Matt Nagy this entire time, to be honest with you. Because I see way too much similarity between you and Matt Nagy. The way that you talk to the media is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. I mean, for the first 6 3/4 weeks of the year, you couldn't take accountability for anything that you did. You always were, we got to stick to the basics, and we got to work on the details, and we got to finish stronger. And okay, yeah, sure, I understand that, Matt Eberflus. But at the same time, you honestly can't tell me that you never once looked at yourself, Shane Waldron, and even Ron Washington, really, with how he can't stop the run game on the defense until he gets into the red zone. You really cannot tell me that you have not looked inside for some self-reflection and been like, we could have coached that situation better. We 100% could have coached that situation better. You dodge the media questions and you relegate it back to it's in the details. We just got to work on it during the week to get down the details. Yeah, that's fine and dandy, but if you're going to say that, you have to put merit to it, right? Like, call me crazy if I'm crazy. I mean, I might be crazy, and that's okay if I'm crazy. But if you're going to say something like that and try to pass it off all nonchalant, you have to put merit into it, and you have to make those adjustments for next week. And I'm sorry, but you have scored 3 points in one game and 7 points in one game in the first quarter, and that's it. You have no other first quarter points the entire year. So you saying that you're working on the details and you're working on getting things down and communication and making sure that everybody's cohesive and gelling, I don't believe you. I really can't say that I believe you, Matt Eberflus, because every week you come out so incredibly flat. So flat. I mean, you won't be married to the run game whatsoever. The run game starts working and you just give up on it. And then you can't allow your run game to establish the pass game whatsoever. And then you might as well just throw away the deep ball because, I mean, I understand trying to get Caleb Williams to be able to establish a deep ball and get down his accuracy. But the problem is that your offensive line just does not give him enough time, quite frankly. That's just what it is. And, you can't. It's really hard to watch when you always came out and gone 3-and-out, then 3-and-out, then 3-and-out. Then you had a couple of games where you went, 2 sets of downs and then punted, and then 2 sets of downs and punted. It's like, how can you come out with the exact same game plan? Like, as far as I'm concerned, it looks like you're rolling out the exact same game plan every single week. Every single week. Every single week. And, I mean, for your captain squad or your captain's council or whatever you guys called it, for your players' council to have to tell you to coach us harder is a really big deal. Like, I'm sorry, but that shows that Shane Waldron just ain't that guy. And I understand he revitalized, Geno Smith's career, and that's great. But Geno Smith is also a veteran. He is not a rookie. I don't think that he knows how to develop a rookie quarterback. Not to mention, we then found out that we passed up on the guy from Detroit, and it's like, the Bears have all these opportunities to do so many things right, and then they're like, nah, we're going to do it the Bears way. And it's like, it just stings, because the irritating part is that they come out in hindsight and then be like, we had the opportunity to do this, and we passed on it. Like, you know what I mean? Bears fans. The problem is that you have too much talent on the roster. So much talent on the roster, in fact. I mean, you have talent from the top down. And, I mean, it starts with the quarterback. We know he's got talent. We saw it weeks 3 through 6. We know that even guys like Darnell Wright on the offensive line have talent. We know that the defensive line has talent when you have Montez Sweat in there, and Billings, and Javon Dexter on the other side. Our secondary has never been a problem in my lifetime. We've been blessed with amazing defensive backs and linebackers in my entire lifetime. That goes back to 1996. So our secondary has never been a problem in my lifetime. So it's like, how can you keep rolling out the same product every single week and expecting a result? Because that is the exact definition of insanity. It really is. It's the definition of insanity. And then there's 3 weeks in a row where there are boneheaded calls from Shane Waldron, and then you go and double down on the calls that are being made, and that you're gonna roll out with the same type of plan. You're gonna roll out with the same guys. You're gonna roll out with the same this, same that, same everything. It's like, do you not know how to adjust at all? Because as far as I'm concerned, the last 2 weeks, you haven't even been able to make adjustments out of halftime. And at least weeks 1 through 6, I was able to say that on the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball, you were at least, at the minimum, at the least, able to make adjustments coming out of the half, and you got better from the first half to the second half. I mean, that's obvious just because of some of the scores you put up when you can't score in the first quarter whatsoever, right? So we know that you can do it. Why can't you just take what happened in a game and make adjustments for a full game the following week and come out in the first quarter better? I don't understand it. And really, up until that touchdown in Arizona with 4 seconds left before the half, your defense has not quit whatsoever. Like, yeah, sure, they've been horrible at run defense up until the opposing team is in the red zone. but they still held everybody to field goals. Like, everybody and their brother was getting held to field goals. You had a 13-game streak where you held people to 21 points or less a game. Like, your defense was not the problem, as far as I'm concerned. Like, yeah, you could have tightened up your run defense. Like, that's really the only defensive adjustment I feel like you could have made. Because, again, your pass defense was there, and even in Jacksonville and even in Washington, just because of the score you were able to hold them to, I would say that, that next man up mentality is for real on the defensive side of the ball. It does work on the defensive side of the ball, because you had guys like Blackwell step up, and it worked. It didn't, like, yeah, sure, it wasn't to the degree of, Kyler Gordon being in the game, but it was still serviceable enough to where it didn't make your team completely suffer because of a guy being down from injury, and it worked. And again, the problem that I have is you can't, it's almost like you just gave up on making adjustments. How do you come out so flat every single week? Like, clearly your first 15 plays that are scripted on offense are not working. And if guys like DJ Moore are coming out and his answers don't have confidence behind it, that says a lot, because it's DJ Moore and you paid the guy. And it's Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze is going to be a guy in the league that you're not going to want to mess with either, because he has the potential to be an outstanding wide receiver. It's just, it is a problem with the coaching from the top down. And to be honest, I mean, Ryan Poles doesn't get free passes in this either, because while I appreciate that he went and drafted a punter in the 4th round, because by God did we need it, we had the worst punter in the league last year, you could have gotten at least some kind of offensive line help. You could have gotten more than Darnell Wright in the draft. You could have gone out and traded for guys in the offseason. And you didn't. You just decided to run it back with basically the same guys that you had, and it's not working on the offensive side of the ball. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. And, I think I think that the proof is just, it's there, and it is solid, because once again, you cannot put points up in the first quarter. You barely put up points in the second quarter. You really don't show up until halftime. You just hope to God that your defense holds you there. And luckily for you, they had been doing that. And finally, there was a chink in the armor in Arizona, and they were able to run against your defense to the point where they couldn't stop it. And, it's just, it hurts to see it, because I was bought in on things would change when Williams came and we went and got Waldron instead of sticking with Getsy. I bought into things were going to change. And, let's be honest, Bears fans. Every single one of us are sitting here looking like fools for it now, right? I mean, it is not pretty. It ain't pretty. And now, the biggest problem that I have with everything is that why isn't Poles or Warren stepping in and being like, hey, if you can't get things turned around, we're going to have problems. Sorry about that, just checking a text message. But yeah, it's, again, my question is, why can't you, why is not upper management stepping in at this point and being like, improvements need to show or there's going to be consequences? Because as far as I'm concerned, the way that you lost to the Commanders and the way that you just lost against the Cardinals in a must-win game, why was there not any sort of, at least to the point where Waldron got let go? Because, like I said, teams in the league today in droves were firing people left and right. Like, my Twitter was insanely full this morning of This coordinator's been fired. This coordinator's been fired. Like the Raiders let go 3 people from their coaching staff, Luke Getsy included. So again, I'm trying so hard to understand what the vision is, because this is a good point that got brought up on ESPN 1000 uh, that I was listening to when I was at work today, is when someone asks Eberflus what their defense is, it is a no-brain answer. They flock to the ball. They hit hard. Pressure on the quarterback. All these things. It is a hard... They're making a case that the monsters of the Midway are back. And I love that for the defense, because, like I said, defense, not the issue. Other than the amount of running yards you give up until they get to the red zone, defense is not the issue. But it's when you ask that question about the offense, nobody knows how to answer it. Nobody can answer it. They don't know, because we don't stick to anything. We don't stick to a run game. We don't stick to short passes. We don't use Cole Kmet enough like we should. We don't use DeAndre Swift the right way, because he's not a between the tackles runner, and we're using him where we should be using Roshan Johnson. We're using all these people in the wrong spots at the wrong time. And I just can't help but wonder, where would the Bears offense be if we were using all these, even with, I'll put this asterisk down there, even with the offensive line that we have, how much better could the offense look if we were using everybody the way that they're supposed to be used? Just think about that. If you're getting everybody target, and I know that it's like not really realistic to be able to do it every game, but like if you could get, Cole Kmet 5 to 7, maybe 10 targets a game when things are going right, when you could get Keenan Allen that ball on that 3rd and short conversion that you need all the time, or the DJ Moore, Roma Dunze on the deep ball, like if you could use these guys in the situations they're supposed to be used in, how much better would the offense look, even with not getting offensive line help? I feel like that's a valid question. I really feel like that's a valid question. And, and then you got the whole media side of this, right? Which, I mean, I've been kind of like dabbling about the whole media things here and there, but like the big case in the media is Eberflus just does not know how to answer questions or take responsibility. Like that was the big chokehold the last 2 weeks, is he refuses to take the accountability in the team's struggles as a whole. And I'm sorry, but you are the head coach. That is 100% your job. 110% your job. I've said this in my in the videos, is that when you have Caleb Williams and Jalen Johnson and Cole Kmet and DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and all these guys coming out and taking more accountability than the head coach, that's a problem, because the players are only supposed to take accountability for what they did wrong in the game or what they could have done better. Like, there's a lot of people that harped on Stevenson because a lot of people thought that it was a half-assed apology, which, I mean, to be fair, I thought that the part where he said he wasn't John at Commanders fans, I thought that was outright bullshit. I thought that was a lie. But he said that he would reflect on it and it would never happen again. And to be fair, he made some plays in that Cardinals game. I didn't see him show anybody up. I didn't see him celebrate it. I saw him nice and composed on Sunday. And that is the accountability and the learning and growth that I want to see. But then on the flip side, you have your coaching staff, which won't take any accountability at all. And in some cases, they relegated it back to the players, which just makes it look worse. Because like I said, you got players that are taking the accountability for the coaching. And it's like, you can't do that. You just, you can't do it. You can't do it. It, like I said, it is the player's responsibility to take the accountability for what they did wrong and what they want to learn and what they want to do better for next week. The coach's responsibility in taking accountability is for the team as a whole, for the play calling, for the coaching, whether or not, everybody's disciplined or not. And I think it's fair to say that in the last 3 weeks, they have not been on the coach's side because they play very undisciplined. There's a lot of penalties. And like I said, there's one play in the middle of the game where you got DJ Moore. He steps out of bounds. He doesn't even attempt to reestablish himself. He just walks on off to the bench. And I think that sends a message more than anything else. I think it is 100% safe to assume that Eberflus has lost the locker room, and so is Shane Waldron. There is no way that Caleb Williams is running half of the plays that Shane Waldron calls. I can almost guarantee it. There is no way. Because Caleb knows what plays are going to get him killed. The offensive line probably even knows when he's going to get killed. And it just seems to me like everyone is, at least on the offensive side of the ball, everybody's getting dealt a very shitty hand because of the coaching, right? I don't know if that's an agreeable statement or not, but it's just painful, absolutely painful to see guys like Rome Odunze's talent getting wasted, or Roshan Johnson not being used in a game where you could have gone up by a touchdown or more than 2 scores, to get yourself tied because you wound up scoring on the next drive, which the following drive would have put the game away instead of having to deal with that Hail Mary. But instead, you go and hand off the ball to a backup center who's probably never ran that play, even in practice. I don't care how much they said that they practiced that in practice. I really don't think they practiced that in practice. Like, let's be 100% honest with each other. And, I hate to listen to all of my favorite podcasts, like CHGO and Locked On Bears, ESPN, the Windy City Breeze, the Bears Breeze, Keek on the mic. Like, I hate having to hear these guys say the same thing over and over and over and over, right? Like, it's not a quarterback's problem. It's not a tight end problem. It's not a wide receiver problem. Sometimes I've even heard them say that it's not the offensive line problem, like the weeks 3 through 6 when we were giving him enough time and not letting him get pressured. It is 100% a coaching problem. And the fact that nobody in the Bears organization has the balls to say, wait, stop, there is something wrong here. It just reminds me of Matt Nagy. It just reminds me of Matt Nagy, and I can't stand it. Because, and then today, I saw a tweet that was like, well, at least Matt Nagy got us to the playoffs. And I was like, damn. Goddamn. And they ain't even wrong. Not even wrong. He got you to the playoffs. Now, to be fair, the years after that were an utter colossal failure because everybody and their brother had film on you. So you knew that the league was going to catch up to that. I mean, even when we went, 12-4? Yeah, 12-4 and got to the divisional round. I mean, everybody knew what the problems were with the Bears offense. It's just because nobody had film on it yet. And then you got to the playoffs. And, I mean, let's be honest, for as good as the Eagles were, I mean, that game shouldn't have come down to a field goal, and it did. And then the double doink crisis hits us all. And it just seems like replays of that, right? I mean, it just seems like the same dumb issues week in and week out. How can you not? How can you not try to change anything that's going on week after week? And I know that it sounds like I'm repeating myself here, but it's like that's all we have to talk about is every single week we can circle two really stupid plays that are like that probably cost us the game. And then there's also a why are we coming out so flat every single week? Why is the offensive line so dead every single week? Why are we not sticking to the run game and what's crazy, you're not sticking to the run game, and somehow DeAndre Swift 3 weeks in a row still managed to find over 100 yards rushing. So again, it's not a player personnel issue. It is a coaching personnel issue. And I'm with everybody else. I want to see some major accountability coming from upper management. I want to see either Poles or Warren himself be like, no, if this shit is pulled again, someone's getting fired. Because think about it, Bears fans, it can't get any worse than what it already is right now. We can't go any more backwards. We can kiss our playoff odds goodbye. I don't think that getting to 9 or 10 wins is going to be enough because of how the NFC North just so happened to turn out to be this year. Unless every single other playoff team that we're playing against has an utter collapse, which, I mean, just the odds of that alone aren't there. Unless you have 2 or 3 other really big key teams struggle the rest of the year, I don't know how 9 or 10 wins get you in. I don't even know how you get into to 9 or 10 wins. Because you basically have to win every game at home. And as of this morning, Matt Eberflus's road record is 0-19 on Sundays. And I want to say it's 3-21 or 3-18 combined over his tenure as the Bears head coach. Bears fans, that ain't good. You can't you can't get into the playoffs with those kind of records. And I hate to say that we have to sit here and wonder of the what ifs, but we kind of keep doing it to ourselves. You know what I mean? And it's just, it is starting to get really, really, really sad to see just not being able to come out with a different game plan to find something that works. You keep holding steadfast on there will not be any offensive line changes. There will not be any play calling changes. We still believe in Waldron. We still believe in this. We still believe in that. We're going to keep this the same, keep that the same, do everything the same. I just don't understand it. I don't. And, unfortunately, we're the ones that have to pay the price because we have to watch really bad football for probably another 9 weeks. And, that's unfortunate because games like Washington and Arizona should have been won. The game against the Patriots should be winnable. And I would argue that the game against San Francisco should be winnable because of all the injuries they're dealing with. And last time we were in Seattle, we beat them too. So, I mean, those games are very winnable outside of the division. But you are getting so exposed against teams that are winnable against, your division's going to stomp all over you. I don't see you winning a home game against your division right now. I really don't. And unless there's some absolute magic pulled out of the bag, Bears fans, I don't see it. I just don't see it. I would love to say that we could squeak our way into a wild card, but yeah, right now, well, with Washington leading their division, I mean, there's no tiebreaker there, but like the likely tiebreakers would probably be against Seattle. It would probably be against San Francisco. Yeah, that would be it. That would be the other tiebreakers I could think of. But you basically need the Commanders to win their division because they have that tiebreaker now, you know? But it's like, what can you ask to see out of the Bears for the rest of the year at this point? Because your offensive line is not going to really allow Caleb to develop at all. And I mean, let's think about it. The trade deadline's tomorrow, and there's already news articles going around Twitter and ESPN and everywhere else that they're not going to make a big splash. And that is depressing because you backed yourself into a corner. You know what you need to do. You know that you need help on that left side of the offensive line. And now you've lost your way out of being able to go into the trade market and get at least somebody. It doesn't have to be the best somebody because typically good teams with good offensive linemen don't get traded in the middle of the year. But now you have no option to be able to go and do that. And, I just don't see another way of fixing this until the draft and using off-season trades to be able to get it done. And, like I said, unless the Bears pull some magic out of their, rabbit's hat, I just don't see a way out of this. I think that this hole's been dug too deep because you needed to win in the Commanders, Cardinals, and Patriots games. You had to win 2 out of the 3, and you were hoping to get 3 because you wanted to try to be 7-2, or I'm sorry, 6-2 before the trade deadline, right? Yeah, you wanted to try to be 6-2 before the trade deadline. Now you're sitting there 4-4, and what kind of player is going to want to go to a 4-4 team, right? So, I mean, it's just a lot. I don't exactly see what. I don't see which. I just don't see what the Bears could do to try to make anything better at this point. And unless Shane Waldron can turn something around, unless Eberflus can start taking some accountability and turn something around, which I have lost all hope in those two. And it sounds like a lot of the Bears kingdom has, to be honest. It doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look pretty, but yeah, I will do my best to chop some of these into smaller segments for videos because I think a lot of good points were brought up. However, it is time for me to go grub on some dinner, Bears fans. Listen, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. What are you frustrated about? What are the glimpses of hope you see out of Williams or Odunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Tyreek Stevenson, Jalen Johnson? What are the goods that you see? What are the bads that you see? What do you think will happen? Do you think we have a chance against any of the divisional games, or are we just going to get curb stomped in all 6 of them? I don't know. I don't know, Bears fans. But again, leave me a comment. Leave your opinions below. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell too so we could beat that YouTube algorithm. And I will catch you guys when we have our injury update on Wednesday. Y'all take care and have a good